Train, 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 train lover 16. The train, for its size, is the fastest vehicle on land. And the locomotives of Redcliffe Loco Yard are the power behind the stations, industries and train lines that make up the well-renowned Redcliffe and Guineabridge Railway. This is Redcliffe Railway Tales. Despite the Redcliffe and Guineabridge Railway being privately owned and operated, being among the many railways of Britain saved from the closure acts of Dr. Beeching, and being home to a few steam engines, Mr. Eric does not consider the R&GR to be a heritage railway, but a proper public service that just operates a little differently from the national network. But despite this, the railway still sometimes hires unpaid volunteers, like almost all heritage railways do. Paid or unpaid though, all new recruits of the R&GR staff need to go through a training program. One day, one of these new recruits came to see Mr. Eric to start his program. Come in. Are you Mr. Eric? Yes, that's me. Excellent. Delighted to meet you at last, sir. Martin Haroldford. I'm your new volunteer fireman. Yes, Mr. Haroldford. Welcome to the team. Please have a seat. So according to your application papers, you're transferring from the North Bedfordshire Railway, is that right? It is, sir. The NBR is my dad's railway, as a matter of fact. Yes, of course it is. You must be Leonard Haroldford's son. A fine man your dad is. Anyone who's saved as many rail, road, sea and air vehicles from the cutter's torches he has can't not have my respect. Could not agree with you more, sir. I'm sure my dad will be absolutely honoured to hear you say that. Why, thank you, Martin. Anyway, your training programme. You'll be undertaking it the entire way through with Sir Callum as your instructor. He's your 7MT Britannia, right? I love the Britannias. One of my favourite post-war engine classes, you know. I really wish more than 3 had been preserved. Same here. So, shall I introduce you to him now? Of course. But you wouldn't mind if I had a coffee first, would you? Not at all. Mugs, coffee granules, milk, sugar, etc. are all on the left. Just fill up one of the mugs with as much as you want of each, then come with me. But what about the hot water? We get our hot water from a special place. You'll see. 10 minutes later, Mr. Eric was introducing Sir Callum and Martin to each other. Delighted to meet you, Martin. Likewise, Sir Callum. I was really hoping I'd be training with you. Your class are some of the finest ever produced. Why, thank you. Right then, Martin. Allow me to show you how we make coffee on this railway. Watch this. There you are, Martin. Straight from Sir Callum's boiler. Why spend money on kettles or water heaters for your railway stations when you already have 3 giant ones? Wow, just like I bought the engine. Thanks. It could just be me, but this is probably the most delicious coffee I've ever had. That's the magic of good old-fashioned locomotive cooking, Martin. Soon, Martin had finished his coffee and was on Sir Callum's footplate, ready to start his training. Okay, We're going to start with just a nice, easy run with the picnic flyer up to Guineabridge Junction and back again, so you can learn the route and get a feel for how to fire steam engines as big as me. Then, at 1 o'clock, we've got a very special job to do. The railway is currently fulfilling a massive contract for the Guineabridge Ministry of Defence base, transporting armoured containers of ammunition. They're some of the heaviest this railway's ever transported, and Jacob's going to have 3 of them on his freight train this afternoon, as well as the usual freight we have to transport. So as you can imagine, it's going to be quite a challenge for him to pull, so we're going to be banking him over the Bexgate flyover. Wow, that sounds exciting. It is, and it'll be a perfect opportunity for you to prove yourself. Before we start work though, I've got to fill up with water, so let's head up to the water tower and see how well you can fill me up. Alright, should be no problem. Sir Callum slowly pulled out of his siding and was up at the water tower within 60 seconds. Martin was soon giving Sir Callum his drink, but then, all of a sudden... Ah, God! Careful! My tank wasn't that low! Sorry, we usually wait until the water level is almost 0 to fill up on the NBR. I can't help but feel that's a little backwards. At that moment, Emma brought Sir Callum's coaches into the station.
Oh dear, Sir Callum. Seems like your new fireman's being a right wet blanket.
Not necessary, Emma. And besides, this is only his first day. It doesn't matter too much if he makes 1 or 2 mistakes.
I'm sorry. I know. I just couldn't help myself. Your coaches are ready for you when you are.
Thanks, Emma. Once Martin had cleaned up the excess water, Sir Callum went to couple up to the coaches. Ready to show me your stoking skills, Martin? Absolutely, Sir Callum. Soon, the conductor blew his whistle and they set off. The run started out strong, but soon Sir Callum noticed that his steam pressure was dropping faster than normal. You are keeping my fire hot as best you can, aren't you? Yes, of course, but I'm not used to firing engines as big as you. I can't really keep up with how much coal your fire needs. Alright, don't worry about that at the moment. Just continue to do your best for now. Unfortunately, Martin's best still wasn't quite good enough. Sir Callum's pressure continued to drop, causing him to lose more and more speed. He was able to recover some steam after a 10-minute stop at Guineabridge Junction, but not enough, and by the time he finally arrived back at Redcliffe, he crawled into the station 25 minutes late. I'm sorry, Sir Callum. It's alright, Martin, you clearly just need more practice. But don't worry, the more you train with me, the more practice you'll get. Thank you. I'll make sure to put a lot more coal on your fire on our next run. You're especially going to need it if we're to get Jacob and his extra heavy freight train over the flyover. That's the spirit! Martin uncoupled Sir Callum, and Ethan, who was waiting in the passing loop to take over the train, moved past Sir Callum before he moved off of the train and back into the passing loop to allow Ethan to couple up. He set off a few minutes later. After Martin topped up Sir Callum's coal level and had his lunch, just after 1 o'clock, Jacob came puffing fiercely into the station with his extra heavy freight train. Sir Callum could very clearly tell how much he was struggling. I've had a hard enough time simply getting this monolith train out of the rolling stock yard, Sir Callum. Lord knows what it's gonna be like pulling it up the Bexgate flyover, even with your help. I sympathize, Jacob, but I'm sure we can do it. I'll give you a whistle when I'm ready to go. Thanks, bro. Sir Callum reversed through the passing loop and buffered up to the back of the train. After Martin had secured the couplings, Sir Callum gave a long whistle to Jacob. Jacob gave one back in acknowledgement, and they set off. Though they worked hard, the train's weight prevented them from going that fast. Thus, it took quite a while for them to reach the flyover. As the gradient began, they pulled and pushed as hard as their cylinders would allow, the sound of their chuffing echoing across the countryside. But very soon, Jacob began to lose steam. I can't do it! I can't do it! He gave 2 short whistles to Sir Callum, requesting more power. Sir Callum acknowledged with 2 short whistles back. More coal, Martin! No problem. Martin began projecting the coal onto Sir Callum's fire. Very soon it was roaring and making Sir Callum much more steam, but this caused him to start pushing harder than he thought he was. Suddenly, he began to hear a cracking noise in front of him, and by the time he realised what was causing it, it was too late. The rear coupling of the wagon in front of him broke, he crashed right through it, completely destroying it, perched on top of its chassis, and still had enough momentum to crash through the next wagon along as well. Jacob heard the tremendous crash behind him, and immediately made an emergency stop. God above! Are you alright, Sir Callum? My wheels and frames are kind of sore, but other than that, I'm fine. Could definitely do without this perch, though. And Martin, when I said more coal, I didn't mean that much. Whoops. Dora and Caitlin soon came to bring Sir Callum and the destroyed wagons back to the rolling stock yard, while Jacob continued on to Guineabridge Junction alone with the rest of his train. Colin was waiting for Dora and Caitlin, ready to help lift Sir Callum back onto the rails. As Colin and Caitlin set to work re-railing him, Mr. Eric spoke to Martin. I said I was sorry. I know, but that doesn't change the fact that the accident occurred. You've really got to be careful when firing massive engines like Sir Callum. Sir, my work schedule says I've got to light him up tomorrow morning. If I destroy 2 whole wagons just because I built up his steam pressure too much, I dread to think what might potentially go wrong when I'm lighting him up. Don't worry, Martin. As long as you follow Sir Callum's instructions to the letter, nothing should go wrong. Thanks, Mr. Eric. I'll make absolute sure to. Good man. Now go and enjoy the rest of your day with him. You deserve to. Martin did end up enjoying the rest of that day, and though he had to get up at the crack of dawn the next morning, he was in a good mood when he arrived to light up Sir Callum's fire. Well, Martin, here on time. Didn't expect that. Yeah, well, of course I was gonna be here on time. Why do you think I wouldn't? Well, usually, the first time a fireman on this railway has to light one of us up, they arrive late because they're not used to having to get up so early. But you obviously have no problem with that. Anyway, did you remember to get the old newspaper from the staff room? Yes, I did. Good. As for everything else you need, wood's in the bunker over there, coal's in my tender, and the petrol to soak that newspaper in is in the tank in the rolling stock yard. Martin filled up a mug he'd also taken with him with the petrol, then climbed into Sir Callum's cab, and set to work soaking the newspaper in the petrol before throwing it into Sir Callum's firebox. After which he struck a match and dropped it on top of the newspaper before pouring the rest of the petrol into the firebox. Then, as Sir Callum's fire began to heat up, Martin went to fetch the wood. Soon Sir Callum's fire was burning well and beginning to build up his steam pressure. It was now ready for Martin to add coal to it, but just as he was about to, he noticed something that concerned him. Sir Callum, there seems to be somewhat of a gap at the bottom of your firebox. Is that normal? My fire grate might be a little loose. You'd better tighten it just in case. Alright. Martin climbed out of the cab and tightened the grate as much as he could, then climbed back in and added 8 shovels of coal to Sir Callum's fire. Once Sir Callum's steam had reached working pressure, Martin made some coffee with Sir Callum's boiling water and drank it in the cab. Once he'd finished his coffee, they set off up to the station to collect their early morning freight train. There was another load of munitions on the train, but also a large fuel tanker. However, Emma had made sure to shove them onto each end of the train to keep them as far away from each other as possible and minimise the risk of an explosive disaster. As soon as Emma had brought the train into the passing loop, Sir Callum went to couple up. But as Martin was tightening the couplings, he noticed something else. I think the tanker's dripping, Sir Callum. Really? That's incredibly dangerous. You'd better see to that. Martin did his best to find and isolate the leak. This caused them to be a little late departing, but they still had a smooth run to Guineabridge Junction. David was waiting in platform 2 with a commuter train when they arrived. Morning, David! Sir Callum stopped the train partially beyond the platform to make sure the line was clear for David's departure. Right, Sir Callum. I haven't had a chance to have a proper breakfast yet. What's the breakfast in the station cafe like? Oh, don't bother getting breakfast at the cafe. The rest of the staff tell me that Wilbert, Guineabridge Junction station master, makes breakfasts that, according to them, rival those of Gordon Ramsay. Speak to him, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to whip you up a full English. But as Martin climbed down and started walking towards the station, it happened. Oh, good Lord! Martin, what was that? Martin ran back as fast as he could. Jesus Christ, Sir Callum! I think your fire bars have collapsed! What should I do? Okay, calm down. I'm still at working pressure, so I can still move. Just uncouple me, and I'll move well out of the way of the fire. We're beyond the platform, so we can let the fire burn itself out. Martin ran to Sir Callum's rear coupling and thrusted the uncouple lever upwards. Then Sir Callum moved out of the way as quickly as he could. They thought the situation had been averted, but as a matter of fact, it was only just beginning. Sir Callum! The tanker! It's leaking even more now! The petrol's spreading towards the fire! Oh no. Wilbert! Evacuate the passengers onto David's train! Then get the hell out of here, David! As soon as the passengers were on David's train, the hell out of there David got. Martin and Wilbert then ran well clear of the station, just in time. Burning fuel and pieces of Sir Callum's freight train rained down everywhere, turning the entire junction into an inferno. Wilbert! Radio for the rescue train! No need to tell me twice, Sir Callum! Mr. Eric had recently added a firefighting segment to the rescue train. Dora and Colin were having a conversation about it when her Morse code receiver started beeping.
Now who needs the rescue train? Fire at Guineabridge Junction.
Well, speak of the devil. Guess it's time to put our new firefighting segment to the test. All present and correct, Dora.
Right, let's go. Okay, everyone, action stations.
The rescue train workers almost immediately emerged from the coach, attached their fire hoses to the water tanker, and turned the tap on. Water shot out of the hoses and started dousing the flames, but they soon discovered that the hoses alone were far from enough. Dora, it's too hot. The hoses are having little effect on the flames.
Right, looks like we're going to need some air support. Wilbert, radio Knotford Airport and ask them to send out Henry.
On it, Dora. At Knotford Airport, Robert was talking to Henry. I'm loving your new paint job, Henry. Why, thank you, Robert. Full orange I feel suits me much better than that ghastly green. Just then, air traffic control radioed Henry. Henry, this is an emergency assignment. Guineabridge Junction station's on fire. They need you to drop a water bomb. 10-4 control, shall take off immediately. Do excuse my abrupt departure, Robert. If it's to save our station, of course I'll excuse you, Henry. See you later, and good luck. Henry started up his rotors and took off towards the river. The fire grew ever fiercer as the rescue train workers continued to tackle it. Dora and the cranes had moved well out of the way for their own safety. Everyone anxiously awaited Henry's arrival. At last, Henry came into view. Hello, chaps. Heard you need air support. I have just the thing needed to put this fire in its place. Water bomb away. Ha ha! Let's see this fire try and get the better of you all now.
Thanks so much, Henry.
Any time, dear. Henry's water bomb had contained the fire from spreading north, but not around the station. The rescue train workers tried their best to stop the spread, but the flames were still too hot. Then, one of the workers noticed something immensely critical. Dora! The munitions container is starting to blister! It could go any second!
Crap, there's no way Henry will be able to pick up another water bomb and get back here in time.
Can't you try hooking up an extra hose to Sir Callum's tender and use his water? There's no way I'm going to be able to get close enough to the container with all that burning debris behind me. Right, in that case, there's nothing more we can do. Get clear, men! They got clear just in time. Thankfully, the munitions burned incredibly quickly, and so couldn't set any of the debris from this explosion on fire, unlike the petrol. The debris falling on top of the fire also robbed it of the oxygen it needed to burn. Though the fire was still burning in places, it could now be brought under control. Sir Callum rolled back to get a closer look at what was left of the station and his freight train. Oh God, just look at the state of the junction. Dora and the cranes came back into the loop too.
Yeah, but this is nothing compared to what could have happened. If we and Henry had been unable to contain the fire, it could have easily spread to the town. Well done, everyone.
Once the rest of the fire had been extinguished, the clean-up operation began. The excess water was cleaned up, Colin and Caitlin re-railed the lesser damaged wagons and loaded the debris from the station and damaged cargo onto other wagons. The severely damaged wagons would be collected later and returned to the rolling stock yard for repairs. Max was called up to help Sir Callum, who'd had a new fire lit, take the debris away. All the while, Mr. Eric was talking to Wilbert about Martin. So you think this disaster was caused by Martin failing to properly secure Sir Callum's fire grate and isolate the fuel tanker's leak? Yes, sir. What are we to do with this lad? Come on, Wilbert, we'd better get him to hospital and have him treated for shock. Sir, I know Martin messed up big time today, but he means very well and clearly wants to work hard and do his best to learn from his mistakes. Please don't sack him, will you? I can't promise I won't, Sir Callum, but I do agree with you. Thank you, sir. Please consider keeping him on. Sir Callum puffed away with his load of debris, worrying for Martin and his place on the railway. Thankfully, he would be given a second chance, but that's a story for another day.